Welcome to my first landmark episode of Uncontained, making it to the 10th episode, which brings up one dilemma. What do I call it? Before it was 01 or 001, 002, 003, etc. Should it be 010, 010, as some people say 10, or as a drummer from the band, well, aren't you precious? Well, he thinks it should be 0010. Yeah, he's a better drummer than he was ever at math. I'll tell you that right there. I think just for this show, none of those are right. Let's go with X, Roman numerals. Break those out for the 10th episode. Anyway, it's a victory that I've made it to double digits so far. Looking forward to making it to the next landmark, which, I don't know, would that be 25? Would that be 50? Would that be 100? I'm not sure, but going to make it to all of them. I would like to thank my first 10 guests because I couldn't have made the first 10 episodes without them. Many of them agreed to be guests before I even had the show launched. And this is one of those guests as well. Nathan Timmel. He's a comedian, author, and podcast host. Hosts the Idiots on Parade Too Ugly for TV podcast, which you check out. Comes out every Monday on iTunes. In this show, we discuss what he wishes he would have done earlier in his career, why he doesn't watch Netflix, especially while he's on the road, and how he ended up with a cartoon character in his celebrity safety list. You know, the list of 3 celebrities you can get away with doing while you're married? Yeah, that list right there. So enjoy episode X with comedian, podcast host, author Nathan Timmel on Uncontained. How are you doing today, Nathan?
I am good, except for apparently my voice, which I had no idea sounded like this till we started talking, but oh well.
Hey, it's early. We'll just say it's California time right now because that's where I'm at. So you have an excuse for morning voice. You sound all right, by the way.
There you go.
Did I butter you up enough on that?
Oh, I feel so much more self-confident now. It's like the opposite of my birthday, where my dad is telling me I'm a disappointment and I'm crying. So it's the opposite of that. It's a good day now.
Those are the birthdays you remember, though.
Well, they just sort of run together when it's that.
Oh, so it was every birthday? I'm
Probably,
sorry, man.
yeah.
So, I started listening to your podcast, Idiots on Parade, Too Ugly for TV. I used to do stand-up in Iowa before I moved to California, and I did some open mics with Jake Favre. How did you two hook up?
Probably Studio 13 in in Iowa City. We're both huge homosexuals, and that's the gay club. So we were down there probably trying to hook up, and then we just became, lovers.
Found each other through the glory hole?
Yes. We're not
Nice.
supposed to look, but we did anyway.
Cool. And for those of you who haven't listened to the show, Idiots on Parade, Too Ugly for TV podcast, you can find it at iTunes, Stitcher. How would you best describe your podcast to people?
Man, we just we rarely pick a topic in advance, which is something we think we should change, because we just sort of surprise each other like, hey, Jake, have you heard of this? Not really. All right, well, I'm telling you, and just make shit up on the spot, and he usually does. But yeah, the tagline, I think, is part comedy, part politics, completely stupid. Because we don't want to take ourselves too seriously, but it's a lot of current events. We just talk about what's happening in the world, and with our stupid spin.
I actually, once I got connected with the podcast, I went back and binge listened to everything. So now I'm on the weekly basis. I have to wait for every Monday now. But I actually do enjoy the format that you guys have now, where either one of you might not know what the topic is until one of you bring it up, and then you guys just have to roll with it. I kind of enjoy the spontaneity of that.
I do too. The only problem is every so often one of us will stump the other one. And sometimes, and I don't do it often, I will edit like 5 to 10 seconds of silence out. And that doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it really is when you realize, hey, what do you think of this? Shit, dude. Yeah. And then the ball starts rolling. So it's not always I don't want to call it fake, but every so often there's a little tweak. I mean, you make it seem like it flows just a little better than it does.
Yeah, in radio and podcasting, like 2 seconds of dead air can sound like a lifetime, let alone 15. So it's after a couple seconds, people are like checking, is this device still working? Did I
Right.
lose connection? And all that good crap. So yeah, editing a little silence isn't cheating. Editing out like a whole section, it may be.
One time I thought I amused myself with this, and I don't know if I amused anyone else, but occasionally our connection breaks, and I'll usually just like, oh, we lost connection. Hey, we're back. But there was one time where I actually did go find the elevator music from the Blues Brothers scene toward the end, where they're riding to the top to the pay off the tax assessor scene, because we lost signal, and I just felt like throwing in 10 seconds of hold music. Well, I mean, in reality, I could have just edited, like, and we're back, because that's the joy of editing, is there didn't have to be any break. But I thought it would be amusing to put a little hold music in there to not give it real time feel, but make it a little more honest. And like I said,
Yeah,
amused with
yeah.
it. Oh, no signal. Like whenever you see it on any program, the Simpsons have done it. Stephen Colbert does it, where he's about to say something off color, and then they just show up that "Please stand by" uh,
Yes,
logo.
yes. The off-air symbol
Right.
from back when TV stations actually went off the air.
Yeah, that was fun. My wife and I recently, oh, what, like 2, 3 weekends ago, we have DirecTV, and every so often they'll have like a free HBO weekend. So we just load up the DVR, and I'm happy that they have a free HBO weekend. I don't know what they're thinking, like, oh, maybe we'll get people to subscribe. Nope, we just record everything and then we watch it over the span of a couple months. But they played Poltergeist, which fantastic movie, the original. I've never seen the remake because I don't watch shitty remakes.
Yeah.
But I would like to see the remake, just the beginning of it, to see how they handle what you just mentioned. The Poltergeist originally was based on this girl. The TV the TV channel signs off and it goes to static, and then the ghosts sort of start talking to the little girl through the static in the TV. But now that television is 24/7, there are very few channels that go off the air. I would like to see how they flipped that switch and said, oh well, since televisions don't go to white noise anymore, what do they do? But that was a long-winded story,
Easy.
considering you just mentioned TVs going off there, but it was the first thing I thought of.
Easy. It's going to be Anderson Cooper or one of the jackasses from Fox News.
Oh,
That's going to be telling her, like, make your head spin around in circles, vomit, screaming, fuck me, fuck me.
right.
So, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
Probably one of the Fox News pundits. Cooper seems like too nice a fella to say things like that.
He does, but that's what makes him great. You wouldn't suspect him.
That's true.
Like,
I can see
Anderson
that.
Cooper's making you do this? No way. But yeah, I think that's how it's gonna. It's been so long since I've seen the original Exorcist or Poltergeist or any of those old horror movies.
Jake and I talked about it the other week, the old horror movies. And we admitted, both of us, that the last time we saw them, we found them very boring. I never found The Exorcist frightening at all. I just sat there like, wow, times have changed. And I don't like Michael Bay hyper editing. I think that's annoying. But I do think that there is something to be said for just speeding things up a little bit. Not even speed. I can enjoy, like, the movie Moneyball, I think is fantastic, and that moves, it could be argued, at a snail's pace, but I absolutely love it. There's just something about, I can't even put my finger on it because it's been so long since I've seen The Exorcist, but I just remember sitting there going, oh my fucking God, let something happen. Just anything.
Yeah,
And it didn't. And I remember seeing Rosemary's Baby after hearing about it my whole life. I heard, oh, this is such a classic, legendary, scary film. And I just sat there thinking, well, this is just a lot of nothing. To me, these movies could have been a half an hour shorts and been much more effective.
yeah, and I wonder how much of that is the times of changing what we're used to seeing, like all the blood splatter and all that, compared to the special effects and all that they had going on back then at that time. But I'm with you. I never really liked horror movies back in the day because they didn't really scare me until I came across something that made me realize what horror movies were supposed to be like. It's called The Army of
No, I
Darkness.
know what you're talking about.
They
Yeah,
they
yeah.
made me realize horror movies are supposed to be funny too. Or at least if you approach them with a sense of humor, they're actually entertaining. But earlier on, it was like, man, these don't scare me. What the hell's the point of watching them? And then Bruce Campbell and the Army of Darkness comes along and just changes everything.
I to me, I prefer. I don't. I've never seen a torture porn movie. They just don't interest me. Hostel or any of that sort of genre where it's just like you said, blood and splatter, and let's show. Let's just have it be violent for the sake of being violent. That's to
Yeah.
me the most horrifying story of all time. One of the best horror films, and I don't know if it's classified as a horror movie, is Silence of the Lambs. I like something that's like this could be real, where you created a human that's a
Yes.
monster. Or I'm gonna argue against what I said. The original Halloween, I think, moves very slowly, but I think it's a great build. It's not that it's moving slowly, it's building to something. Whereas you could say The Exorcist did, but I just didn't enjoy the way it built. But again, you're creating a real monster. You're creating a kid that's just a sociopath that's psychologically damaged, and they never explain why in Halloween until he becomes an adult that just starts killing. And yeah, those to me are the frightening horror films. And you could make the argument that Hostel, ooh, that could be real. You're luring people into a situation and killing them. Like, yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I'd have to see. Maybe I'm prejudging. I just don't think I'm interested in watching people get tortured and killed. It's not my thing.
No, I agree. I actually found Enemy of the State scarier than a lot of horror movies. Remember the Will
Oh,
Smith movie
absolutely,
with
yeah,
Gene
Gene Hackman.
Hackman? Like all that government technology. Yeah, I that freaked me out more than like say, I don't know, Pumpkinhead or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to go to like 3 Days of the Condor with uh, Robert Redford again. I mean, when you get into government shadow agencies or Syriana with George Clooney, those to me, when you hit close to home, can be more frightening than something that's like, ooh, there's an axe murderer on the loose. But as I said, Halloween is basically there's an axe murderer on the loose, and I find it wonderful.
Yeah, there are some exceptions to the rule. Another one that I don't know if you've seen, but if you haven't, you should check it out. It's the Black Mirror series. It's actually a British show. You can find it on Netflix or whatever, but it goes through like basically shows technology kind of in the future, but kind of showing some of it present day and how it kind of controls the life of people. There's one with John Hamm from Mad Men on it, where they plant this device on your retina, and people can actually block you. So you just see their like fuzzy silhouette, like you're watching, I don't know, Japanese porn or something. You can be blocked from society and all that stuff, and go into created into a little node put in this jar as your own personal servant. It's really kind of crazy stuff. Like you kind of have to watch it to understand what the hell I'm talking about, but it's one of those things that you could see being real in the future
Yeah,
and kind of scary.
the problem is I am the only person on the planet without Netflix, so I get shit on it constantly because of that. I get shit on constantly because I don't have Netflix. But the problem I see is
Jake has Netflix,
Jake
right?
has Netflix, but I don't
Just get
have
his
the time.
get his
No, it's not a matter of
passcode.
not paying for it. It's just it's a matter of I don't have the time. Like if I were to get Netflix, I wrote about this once. The reason I don't have Netflix is because I went to a comedy condo where they had Netflix but not cable, and I did what everybody does. I binged watched all of Arrested Development season 4, and I think 9 or 10 episodes of The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt over the course of 3 days. And it was the least productive I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm not trying to complain. I loved both shows. That's why I was watching them. And it's like a drug. I could see getting hooked in because good television is good television. I'm not one of these people that like, oh, TV is bad and stupid and awful. No, good television is good. But I am making a decision that I need to write and or spend time with my kids. And then when I'm at home and the kids go to bed, that's when I have free time and my wife and I visit, or we try and be productive on our own. She's working on a project right now and I'm always editing videos. And so to everybody tells me like, oh, just watch it on the road when you're in a hotel room. Like that's when I'm my most productive. That's, when I try and
Yeah.
record with Jake is when I have no family around me that I can just focus and get shit done. And if I'm sitting there, binge watching, uh, I'm drawing a blank on it. The Kevin Spacey show that everyone says is fantastic. The first couple seasons,
House of
House of
Cards.
Cards. The next thing I know, like I said, I watched almost two seasons of television over the course of 2.5 days, and I loved it. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, nothing got done. I did not write anything that weekend. I did not edit any video. I did not update my website. I didn't work on any new jokes. So that's the flip side. Is I don't. How do I put this? I am trying not to pass judgment on anyone here. So hopefully there's no like ego in my voice or any like swinging dick. But I enjoy changing my act. I enjoy, ooh, that's funny. I need to say that on stage, and updating and continually developing who I am on stage. I have seen comedians who have gone 5, 10, 15 years and they've only changed their act either 5 minutes or not at all. And
Wow.
90% of the time, I can only think of one person, and I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, so I won't even say it in praise because it's not my place to call anyone out, or even it's sort of like a backhanded compliment. What I'm about to say is I know one comic that has literally not changed his act in 15 years, and is the only person I can think of where I can still watch it almost every time. Whereas like I still love it even though it's not changed. But every other comic, if I bump into him, there's another guy that I bumped into that didn't change his act in 15 years, and I ran into him for the first time in 10, and I just sat in the back of the room going, "Oh my God, dude, really? Really? This joke is 15 years old." And I have segments of my act that are several years old and that I hold on to, like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, that I rotate in and out. I'm not saying I'm super writer, super performer. I'm always changing and everything I do is excellent, but an entire hour should not remain the same over the course of 15 years. And the long and the short of it is,
Agreed.
if I'm watching Netflix all day, I'm unless I'm writing jokes about Netflix, I'm not really, or I'm being specific. Hey, who saw House of Cards? I've got a joke about it because I just watched it. Well, anybody in the audience that hasn't seen House of Cards is tuning out at that point. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
so that's a very
What?
long reason I don't have Netflix, is because there's just not enough time. If it were Groundhog Day, I would absolutely watch it. If I had a time turner like Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter series, sure, I would watch to my heart's content. But I only have limited hours. And I mean, imagine when you said, "Hey, can you be on my podcast?" And I went, "Nah, I want to check out Orange is the New Black."
I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's a good show. I understand, but
Well,
you can binge watch that later, man.
Kurt Sylvia's
Uh,
girl shows her boobs, and I want to see those.
Actually, you do not see her
Uh,
boobs. I have not seen not full boobs in that anyway. You see them in a bra, but you see a lot of other prison nudity. Some of it good, some of it not so good. Some you could do without, but
The
you
sad thing
know,
about her is Laura Prepron. Is it Pepperon? I can't remember her name, but
sounds about right.
well, she is, unfortunately, and you try not to hold things against people, especially if you don't know them. But she's a Scientologist, and that's just one of those things where I don't know if I could get past it. Like, yeah, you're beautiful, and seem like a nice person, but really, Xenu, come on. Like, and I love Tom
Yeah.
Cruise. I think he's fantastic, but I would never, be married to him or want to, like I could have, if I were to ever bump in and be like, "Oh, it's Tom Cruise. That's awesome." And maybe have a chat
Isn't
or a snack with him. But if it became, like this true friendship, at some point in any friendship, you have to like, really, dude, come on. Like, what are you thinking? Where's the scam? What's the angle here?
Yeah, but isn't he denouncing Scientology? Or I heard he was planning on it because
he wasn't able to see his kid as a Scientologist anymore because was it Katie Holmes or whoever he was married to was like he's crazy and uncontainable and that religion is making him mad. In order to see his daughter, he has to give up Scientology, and he was thinking about it. I don't know if he actually did.
I don't know any of that. I know she wasn't happy with Scientology, but the same thing is, I guess her parents are like super Christians or, super Catholic. And that's to me just as bad. Like, I'm not trying to shit on Scientology specifically. I personally don't see much of a difference between someone that's a hardcore Scientologist and or a hardcore Catholic or Buddhist or, like whatever your belief system is. Come on, it's man-made. You can't call it absolute truth. If you want to believe in a God and say, yeah, I'm Christian, but I still have premarital sex and eat meat on Friday and, sin, but I believe there's a higher power. Okay, more that's fine. I get that. But when you get into, and I like this guy, I love Mel Gibson, but when you get into his unique brand of hardcore, very small church Catholicism, that's where it's like
Anti-Semitics
yeah.
and all that good shit.
Well, I mean, come on, who isn't a little anti-Semitic? They do control all the banks and the media in Hollywood. Jews. And now you have a hook for this podcast. You can
Yes.
Nathan Timmel goes anti-Semitic, and if the right people hear it, then they'll just complain about that, and you'll get a lot of heat. It'll be negative light for this podcast, but you can deflect it all on me. Like, hey, I was just letting him talk. He's the one that went off.
Yeah, and I was going along with them, but give you something to pick it about.
Yeah, exactly. Once they're out there picketing and saying it's the anti-Semitic podcast, at least there'll be eyes on it, and listeners will be well, what did they say? And then when they hear that we said they control the banks and Hollywood and media, then they can't argue that because it's true. Dum dum dum.
It is. And if I could make myself a Jew friend,
either that or a leprechaun friend, an Irish friend, so you could get
Irish
yes,
gold. Leprechauns.
That would be awesome.
Or a dighty.
Irish gold.
Mm-hmm. Rainbows, pots of gold, magic. Okay, now that we're off the anti-Semitic and leprechaun remarks, I'm making this show partially because I want to learn the way to, I don't know, make it in the entertainment industry. I was doing stand-up for a while and moved out here, but I'd like to get into like voiceover and stuff. And I want to let other people listening that want to get involved in the entertainment industry find out tips and things like that from my interviewees at whatever stage that they are in their career. Because, a lot of times the big guy, the guy who's already made it all the way, doesn't have tips that would apply to the person that's going to the open mic to start out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I can give you answers. I can sum it up in a nutshell. Don't do what I did. I went to Los Angeles and lived there for 6 years, and I know exactly what I did wrong. You have to network. You have to buddy. You have to hang out. And I don't want to say that I went out there, shoving elbows and making enemies. I didn't do that, but I just did my thing and I got up on stage and then I would go home and that's about it. And if I would see people, I was friendly, like, hey buddy, what's going on? But I never, like, I was friends with my friends and that was it. And you have to be friends with everybody. You have to just network your ass off, because that to me, I believe is the most important element to success. Is once they know you and like you, it is so much more important than whether or not you're talented or original. If like, oh, hey, yeah, Aaron's a good guy, let's just use him. That happens much more often than, well, let's look at a bunch of resumes and see who's the most qualified. That's the answer I can give. I can't really tell you much else, but my advice would be to network, be nice, be likable, and take an interest in other people so that they take an interest in you. That's the only advice I really have for making it, because I literally thought it was a merit-based industry and I was wrong. So learn from my mistakes.
All right, definitely a good piece of advice there. And yeah, there's been that's so true even outside the entertainment industry. Like people know you get a job. It's not like if you aren't networked, you're kind of working a crappy job trying to meet people,
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess I could have said that, is that it's just like any other industry. It's who you know. I don't think there's any industry. I had a neighbor for a little while who was a former Hawkeye football player in Iowa that made it to the NFL, and for 3 or 4, maybe I don't know how many years, 3 or 4 years, was on and off the practice squad of a major football team. And I'm not going to give names because again, it's not my place to talk about anybody.
All right.
But he would come home for the summer, and then they were like, "All right, you're kicked off the roster. Okay, now you're on the practice squad. Okay, now we're putting on you the 52 or 53 man roster. I forget what it is. Now you're bumped back down to the practice squad." And it was constant. And you talk to his wife, and I watched the preseason games, and when he was on the field, he did a good job. He did his job. He was when I saw him, he was on the offensive line. He had to protect the quarterback, and you'd see the quarterback get sacked, but it was on the other side of if he was on the right hand side, the guy tackling the quarter was from the left hand side. Like, he always had his man. Nothing bad happened, and then he got cut and didn't make it. And I'm talking to his wife. And the NFL is just like any other industry. If you get the right agent, or if you get the heat on you, they will give someone that has heat 10 chances and someone that has talent 1 chance if they don't have buzz. They can have the best player in the world, and if nobody really sees it correctly, the guy that everybody says, like, "Oh, dude, this guy's awesome." Really? Yeah. And if he gets all hyped up, then he can fuck up and fuck up and fuck up until, I mean, look at Michael Vick. My God, the guy can go to jail and come back and have like an explosive half season and then go back to being Michael Vick, which is, I'm not saying a good or bad thing. Just he's not the best. There's a reason he keeps getting bumped down to third string, but they keep taking chances on him. So I'm sure there are talented quarterbacks out there that just don't get the break. Look at how Rodgers made it into the league. Think about Aaron Rodgers, a guy coming
that's right.
up.
You're a Packers fan.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not even talking about him from that aspect or angle. Okay, then fine, turn it around. Go to Tom Brady.
You can talk. You can go about Rodgers. I know what you're saying.
Tom Brady is the same thing. There's a guy that was drafted, I forget, was it like 66th or something? I mean, a guy that was always fighting for the starter position in Michigan when he was in college. They kept saying, like, we're probably going to go with this other guy who's a little better. And he constantly had to prove himself, and then got second string, and then got his break. And the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, where he went to community fucking college, of all things. No one wanted him. So these are such rare stories. But I'm saying that there are probably 5 to 10 Tom Brady's or Aaron Rodgers out there who never get the chance, who are just dismissed because they didn't go to the right school, or they didn't have the right break, or they didn't have the right tape, and no one took an interest in them because they were all looking at the Ryan Leafs or the Matt Leinart or anyone else that flamed out, because those idiots,
Jake Plummer.
Yeah, those idiots got heat. The funny thing was Leinart, when he made it into the NFL, like, so many people were saying, well, I don't know, he's doing that California hot dog thing, and sure as shit, he didn't have it. And then Sam Bradford comes in and gets a and Sam Bradford changed the way they do business in the NFL. He got such a huge contract and was such a letdown that now the NFL has in place that new, and I don't know what it's called, but it's not new anymore. It's like a couple of years old, where it's like, okay, rookies cannot get paid millions and millions of dollars without proving themselves. And Bradford, I thought, was hilarious, because that whole trade last year where Foles went to the Rams and Bradford went to the Eagles because Chip Kelly got an erection for him. The funniest story I read was that Bradford was up for a new contract and they offered him something like 18 million, and he went, "Nah, I'm gonna wait and see here. I'm gonna pull oh fuck, I'm drawing a blank on his name. The quarterback for the not Falcons, not Matt Ryan, the Ravens. I can picture him. Flacco said, "You know what? You're offering me a contract. I'm going to hold out." And he won the goddamn Super Bowl and then got a huge contract. That's what Bradford did. Bradford said, "Nah, I'm going to wait. 18 million isn't enough." And then he had the shit season he had with the Eagles, and now he's going to get offered fucking nothing, but he'll still end up somewhere, because and I thought it was hilarious. It's like, dude, you've never proven yourself and you don't think 18 million's enough, but neither here nor there. This all goes back to networking. It happens in every goddamn business. However, these flameouts got where they are, it's because they knew the right people and they showed enough talent. I'm not saying they'll just like if Bradford was throwing like Tebow, he would have never gotten a big contract. I mean, he showed promise, but he obviously had better agents than Tebow and had a better press kit, a better press package. He had more people backing him than Tebow did.
The one that baffles me even to this day as a Bears fan is Cutler. How he got that giant contract, I don't know. Even though this year he actually did decent. He didn't suck this year, but getting whatever hundreds of millions of dollars that he got is just insane. But I think there's been a rule that, I don't know if it started with him, contract negotiations like with Sam Bradford and rookies, but there's like more of a, after that, I think there's more of a performance-based thing. They started doing it with like RG3 or something like that, with a big contract. And then Kaepernick,
like, oh my God, it's a $200 million contract. Fine print. Yeah, if you suck, you're getting 10 million and that's what happened, is he didn't meet any of the expectations. And I think that's fine. I think that, if you are getting these huge sums, there should be expectations built in.
Yeah, definitely. Like winning and not throwing more interceptions than touchdowns.
But I've said, I mean, when Cutler signed that contract, I've made this joke repeatedly, not on stage because I can't find a way to make it stage funny, but more exasperated, not funny, but sad. I should have been a mediocre NFL quarterback because they all get these millions of dollars to just sort of flounder.
Yeah, that's Cutler's career. I don't know. Hopefully, without Adam Gase, he can continue on his road to not sucking. But Adam Gase did a great job with him. But now he's coaching the Dolphins. So
yeah,
I had to give you crap about being a Packers fan just because of the Bears fan and the cheeseheads and stuff like that.
You can give all the crap you want. We still perpetually have better seasons than you. Even if you beat us at Lambeau, we're still going to lose in the playoffs as opposed to
not going to the playoffs.
Right. And we don't have a shot against the Cardinals today. Everybody's saying, oh, it's going to be so much different. It's going to be so much closer. I have resigned myself to the fact that we are losing to the Cardinals today. I'm not going into this with a, just a cocky attitude or it's going to be close. I don't see it happening. Last week they beat the Redskins. That's not making a statement. That's beating the Redskins. There's a difference.
And it was getting off to a rough start against the Redskins, too. Like, if they get off to that same start against the Cardinals, there's no coming back like against the Redskins.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually heard on your podcast you were a fan of some other NFL team before the Packers, correct? Because you didn't like Brett Favre or something?
Well, I mean, my childhood team was the Los Angeles Rams. But yeah, when I lived in Wisconsin in the 90s, I couldn't really watch them all that much. I didn't really start to enjoy the Packers till I moved away, and then it was sort of nostalgic. But I never was a fan of Brett Favre. I never liked him.
Being a Bears fan, I can't stand Aaron Rodgers, but I can at least respect Brett Favre as far as what I see on the field. I know you had some other reasons for off field that you didn't like him, but it just seemed like he was kind of like Rivers, the quarterback for the Chargers. I just really loved playing the game, and that's what I liked about him.
Well, and see, with Rodgers, he seems like a good person, and so I can like and respect that. And you mean anybody listening to yours that's never listened to our podcast, you might as well just tell them, like, the reason I didn't like Favre is when you lived in Wisconsin, you heard all the stories. He was, peaking and playing in Super Bowls and doing that, oh, shucks, I'm just a country boy from Mississippi, like I'm a good old boy. Like everybody knew he was a pill popper before he came clean. And my problem is not with being a pill popper. Football is a rough game. You're given medication, and that's understandable. The problem is when you're like, oh, shucks, dude, whatever, like, be honest about it. Or, everybody, and I'm speaking in quasi-slanderous, libelous terms here, so I will try and do this in a way that keeps me from being sued by Brett Favre, who will never, ever, ever hear this podcast or me say this anywhere. I could go on stage every night as a comedian and talk about Brett Favre, and he would never hear it. I know my place in the comedic world. But there were so many stories of him he owned the steakhouse in Milwaukee, and fucking waitresses or trying to fuck waitresses or hitting on customers or fucking customers, and at the same time to be like, I love my fiance, I love my wife. So when the whole Jets thing came out that he was texting his cock to that sportscaster, like, this is not a surprise. You don't, to me, it's, look, if you want to be a hound dog and say you fuck women like Wilt Chamberlain, then say I fuck women like Wilt Chamberlain. Don't like, oh, I'm just a southern boy that loves my wife, when you're fucking sending cock shots to a woman. You don't be a hypocrite. That's what I don't like about him. If he had been honest, like fucking McMahon for the Bears. He loved being drunk, and he played goddamn drunk. Like he and Ditka would get into it. There was a great expose on him where he got benched because he was hungover, but the backup was floundering, and he was all cocky and arrogant, and had that quarterback swagger that said, "Get me fucking in there. I'm going to do this." And he did. He went in semi-drunk, hungover, and won the game. I think it was against the Vikings. I don't remember exactly. But the whole point is, he never hid behind his alcoholism. He was just like, yeah, fuck it. I like to party, and I'm a quarterback. Like, be honest. That's why I didn't like Favre, is he put on this face of, fidelity, and all the while he's, fucking anything with a heartbeat.
Understandable on that one. Yeah, if you're gonna do something, live up to it.
Yeah. Or be that. Say, you know what? I love my wife, but every so often I enjoy sending out a cock pic to a woman I find that's hot. Be honest. Like, okay, if she's okay with that, then who am I to judge? But don't say I love my wife. Oh, that's not my cock, even though the one thing about it is, if you remember when that story hit, there was not a single sportscaster that said, wow, this is a stunning development. They were all just sort of like, oh yeah, Brett Favre finally got caught. They didn't say that, but that was their attitude because it had been rumored for years, or it's like one of those things that everybody on the inside seemed to know, but no one would say because they didn't want Brett Favre's lawyers coming down on them, or they didn't want to be the first one through the wall to take all the attention. So once it happened, they were all like, oh, cool, we get to talk about this.
Yeah, Chris Collingsworth was probably upset that he didn't receive a picture from Brett Favre. But him and John Madden really liked Favre too. So, yeah, but he wasn't into that type of thing, I don't think. But but Chris Collingsworth, I think he'd like to see a picture of Aaron Rodgers too.
Well, nothing wrong with that. If I got a naked pic of Rodgers, I'd be like, all right, I'd take a look at that. I saw, and this is horrible of me to say, but again, I tried watching Olivia Munn on the Colbert Show the other night, and it just you never watch celebrities because they just open their mouth, and you're like, well, she's a great actress. I loved her in the Newsroom, and I loved her as a date, and this isn't just her. There are a lot of, you see people that are great actors or actresses that they try and give an Oscar speech or give an interview, and you're like, wow, when someone is not putting words into your mouth, you just don't know what the fuck to say. You are not, coherent.
That's interesting because she used to host a show called, it was on the G4 network. It was, I don't know if it was Attack of the Show or something like that. So she has experience like being, like, I guess, not acting in front of the camera. Maybe
was it
just
extemporaneous or was it on a teleprompter? Because
that's a good question. I don't know.
Fantastic on the Newsroom. She's a wonderful actress, but then just trying to talk, and you're like, oh,
Maybe she tried to pull the Jim McMahon and showed up hungover.
No, that could be.
It's a possibility. Speaking of celebrities,
coherent or interesting on this show, so anybody listening, like, yeah, but I've tried listening to this, and you're just fucking yapping on. True, fair point to you, listener.
I got two more things to talk about, and then we can wrap this up here. I was reading some of your posts on the Huffington Post, and that sounded a little redundant, but yeah, you know what I mean. One of them was about you may be in love with a cartoon character, and your get out of jail free list.
Yeah, Celebrity Crush, the celebrity safety list, and that's what you just talked about. It's a good segue because it's what I was talking about. Like, you see Olivia Munn, and you're like, oh my God, could anyone be better looking? She is drop dead gorgeous. And you have these fantasies like, oh, if I could only meet her and be with her. And then she starts talking, you're like, Oh, yeah. Beautiful doesn't really cover that. So it goes away. But yeah, my daughter loves, and I enjoy too, the movie Big Hero 6. And
That was actually very entertaining. Didn't know what to
yeah,
expect.
it's a great movie. I didn't know what to expect either. They sold it one way, and then it turned out to be another. It's a very emotional journey, very wonderfully done. But there's a cartoon character in there, Honey Lemon, that after seeing the movie 20 times, when you have a 3-year-old, you see shit repeatedly. I suddenly noticed, like, she's an upbeat and fun character. I like her. And I said to my wife, I'm like, hey, I think I'm putting Honey Lemon on my celebrity safety list. And my wife's like, that's a cartoon character. And I'm like, yeah, but here's the thing. She will never let me down. It's already a fantasy. The idea that I would ever meet and get the opportunity to be with um, Anna Kendrick or uh, I can't remember who. I never remember who's on my celebrity safety list because it's such a
You
worthless
said
show. It's such a worth.
in the article it was Allison Brie, I
Yes,
remember.
yes, from Community. Oh my God. See, and that's the thing is I can never remember that because it's like it's such a it's not going to happen. There's no point in dwelling on it. Why even waste brain space remembering which celebrities you think are attractive and interesting? Because it's just dumb. Why would I spend my day thinking about Allison Brie? But when you say Allison Brie, my first response is, "Oh my God, she is gorgeous." That said, um, you know, Honey Lemon, it's fake. The idea that I could ever hang out or hook up with Allison Brie is as realistic as it is that I would hang out and hook up with a cartoon character. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just throwing a cartoon character onto the list because the probability is absolutely the same. I mean, the probability I will hang out with Allison Brie or win a $1.5 billion lottery or hang out with a cartoon character, even odds. They're even odds. And that it doesn't matter that the cartoon character isn't real, even odds. So I figured, fine, I'm just going to put a cartoon character on the list and be done with it. And I told my
Does
wife,
the
if I ever start like buying Honey Lemon figures or you find like uh, Honey Lemon pictures on my history browser and know that I've been doing naughty things thinking about her, then we have a problem. But as long as I'm
yes.
looking at it like, fuck it, she's a cute cartoon character. It's as stupid as anyone else I would fantasize about. So I'm just throwing her on the list. That's why I did it because she's a fun, bubbly character, and yeah, it'll never happen.
Now, does Honey Lemon include the voice actress
No,
that plays
she's
her?
a real person, and
Okay.
if you bump into the real person, it can be ruined. I think in the article I used one example is I think Avril Lavigne is just this cute little tight package of sexy, but then I talk about the news this week of David Bowie's passing. I remember when she was giving Grammy announcements and said, and nominated for whatever, David Bowie, and it's like, oh, you're just too stupid to talk. You're just dumb. And then she goes and
Let
marries the
someone
guy
write
from
your words for
Nickelback
you.
and she smokes and you're like, that ruins the fantasy. You look at her and you're like, wow, you are physically stunning. And then she talks and you're like, oh, you're just a fucking dumb brick. Who writes your songs for you? Because you can't have the package of talented and intelligent, apparently. You can. It's just very rare because she be talented, but just annoying. So
Yes,
Honey
yes.
Lemon will never let me down. She will never be racist. She will never support Donald Trump. You'll never see her at a Donald Trump rally. Um, she'll never marry the guy from Nickelback. So she is in a way the perfect fantasy. Like Alison Brie is gorgeous, but she's engaged to Dave Franco, which is, Dave Franco's good. He's fine. I like him, but he's still a Franco. You still have that James Franco connection, which makes you
Yeah.
go, God damn it, just too annoying.
Fair enough. All right, so we got that out of the way. Done a lot of SFO shows in Iraq and Afghanistan, correct?
Sure, why not?
How did you end up getting set up with that?
This is going to go against everything I said earlier, but it also falls kind of in line with it. I was doing an open microphone, and a guy saw me and said, hey, shoot an email to this person and say you want to do military shows. Um, I said it's who you know, and I guess because I met him, he knew me, but it was more merit based. I said nothing happens merit based. But since you hit me with that question, yeah, I did a show, and this guy said email this person and drop my name, And I didn't know him. I had no idea who he was. He just said, trust me. So I did, and I got hooked up with military tours. He saw me, he liked me, and said, and it turned out it was the booking agent's brother. And so I just had this immediate in, and that's what got it all rolling. It was just complete luck where I happened to do a show and someone was in the audience that had a connection.
Cool. And did you have to pay your own airfare to Iraq? Was it hard to find a flight?
No, they do all that for you. It's not, you don't do it. There's not like and here's your check for $10,000 for performing for the troops. They give you a little food money because they know you're taking off work. Like, oh, you're going to be overseas for 10 days. That's a loss of income.
Yeah.
Here's a little scratch. But the nice thing is that you just show up at the airport and everything's taken care of. You become like a panda that comes from China to the United States to be put on a zoo exhibit. You get off the airport and there's a handler waiting for you. Okay, step over here, sit here, wait here. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take you here. Like you don't really have to do anything. You just be where you're told at what time you're told to be there, and everything else is taken care of for you. They just take you where they want to take you, put you on display. You do your job and go on to the next one.
Right. And I heard that one of your shows got canceled due to mortar attacks. Is that correct?
That happened a couple times. Well, maybe it only really happened. Actually, you're right. The camps would come under mortar attack every so often, but only one show got canceled, an afternoon show. And I hopefully wrote this correctly, because when you say it, it can sound exciting and dangerous, like, ooh, we were under mortar attack. And I do believe I wrote it correctly. When I say the camp came under mortar fire, it was not like anything you would see in the movies. The camps are so big that if the radar picks up incoming mortars anywhere, they cancel everything and you have to go under protection bunkers this isn't like there were bombs going off all around us. We were on I believe, maybe it wasn't an Air Force base, but they still had an airfield. So these mortars were hitting out on the runways. They were nowhere near us. And I don't make it seem like I was, like, ooh, danger. But yeah, so even if they're hitting out on the runways, they're not saying like, oh yeah, they're hitting out there, everybody congregate in one area. No, they say, all right, there's someone out there shooting shit at us. Everybody play it safe till we figure out what's going on. So we were not in any quote danger, but there was still incoming fire. I never want to play it up like, that it was exciting and thematic to a film or a Michael Bay movie. No, it was
like you were in Platoon or something like that.
Right. Like, I may have heard a thud once off in the distance, but we're talking hundreds and hundreds of yards away. We're not talking where, whoa, that was close. No.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap things up, man. Thank you, Nathan, for joining me. Where can people get a hold of you? I know you got the podcast, Idiots on Parade, Too Ugly for TV podcast, your Huffington Post articles, NathanTimmel.com. Any other things you want to plug, promote, anything like that before we wrap up?
The big one is NathanTimmel.com. You can generally find everything from there. In fact, I post my blogs to my website first and then offer them to Huffington Post, or they get reposted. So NathanTimmel.com is your one-stop shopping. The blog will be there before it's anywhere else. And then if you want to go to Huffington Post and give them the advertising clicks, that's fine. But my website does not have any advertising on it. So if you give me the hits, yay, then I get hits, and it makes me giggle inside because I can see website traffic. But NathanTimmel.com, everything's right there.
Okay, cool, man. Thank you once again. And we'll keep in touch and live uncontained. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. And all listeners, my parting message to you is,
elevator music.
Yeah, I just did that on purpose right there. That was me not getting stuck. That was me leaving them hanging.
Yes. Leave them wanting more. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
Thank you again for listening to episode X of Uncontained. Yes, for those who don't know Roman numerals, that is episode number 10 with Nathan Timmel. And thank you to Nathan Timmel for coming on. And make sure you check out www.nathantimmel.com, the home base for everything Nathan Timmel. And you can find a link to his podcast there or search it on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever podcast provider you listening to. It's the Idiots on Parade podcast, Too Ugly for TV, with co-host Jake Favre. Once again, nathantimmel.com and Idiots on Parade, Too Ugly for TV. That's the podcast checking out. And a little Uncontained news, just recently launched the new Facebook page, Uncontained on Facebook. Check it out. If you aren't subscribed already or like it already, please do so. And I also just posted Uncontained to the Google Play podcast library. So one more place for you to be able to check out Uncontained, along with iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and whatever pod player you are listening to already. So as always, please rate, review, subscribe, and share. Until next time, live uncontained.